The roar of Harley engines filled the night air as the Steel Serpents rolled into the small town of Ridgeway, a place that hadn't seen chaos in years. But inside a quiet roadside diner, under the hum of flickering lights, the gang's leader, Cole Maddox, spotted something that froze him in his tracks. The waitress's sleeve slipped, just enough to reveal bruises that no accident could explain. What happened next would change everything, not just for her, but for the entire town. Before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for more real-life stories that hit deep and leave you breathless. The night was quiet in Ridgeway, the kind of small American town where time moved a little slower, where everyone knew everyone, and strangers were rare. The sound of roaring engines shattered that stillness as the Steel Serpents, a notorious biker club known across 3 states, rumbled down Main Street. Their leader, Cole Maddox, rode at the front. His reputation was as hard as the asphalt beneath his tires, ex-soldier survivor, and a man who lived by one rule: never turn your back on what's right, no matter how much it costs. Cole wasn't looking for trouble that night. The crew had been on the road for hours, heading home from a charity ride they'd hosted for veterans. Hungry and tired, they pulled into a small roadside diner called Millie's Place, a quiet joint with neon lights flickering above the door, the kind of place where truckers stopped for pie and locals came for gossip. As the gang parked their bikes, the townsfolk inside turned their heads. Conversations paused, forks froze mid-air. The sight of leather vests, tattoos, and steel-toed boots was enough to make any quiet diner go silent. Cole noticed it, but he didn't care. He had learned long ago that people always judged before they understood. Inside, the waitress, a young woman with chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun, tried to keep her composure. Her name tag read, Lena. She greeted them with a polite smile, though her hands trembled just slightly as she took their orders. Cole, ever observant, caught the small details others missed. The way her eyes darted to the door every few seconds, the way she flinched when a fork clattered to the floor, and the long-sleeved shirt she wore despite the late summer heat. When she reached across the table to pour coffee, her sleeve slid down, just enough for Cole to see the faint outline of dark bruises along her wrist. They weren't the kind you got from bumping into a counter. These were the kind that came from someone's grip, hard, angry, and deliberate. Cole's expression didn't change, but his chest tightened. He'd seen those marks before, too many times, on too many faces. As Lena turned away, he caught the faintest trace of fear in her eyes. After she walked back behind the counter, one of the bikers, a big guy named Trigger, leaned over. "Boss, you okay?" he asked quietly. Cole didn't answer right away. His gaze stayed fixed on Lena, watching her interact with a tall man sitting in the corner booth. The guy had greasy hair, a leather jacket, and the kind of sneer that made your skin crawl. Cole noticed how Lena's hands shook harder when she approached him. The man spoke low, but his tone was sharp, controlling. Every word made her shrink a little more. When she dropped a fork, the man's hand twitched, and Cole saw it, that moment of violent instinct, the one that only men like him recognized instantly. Cole leaned back, his jaw tight. He'd promised himself long ago to stay out of other people's messes. But this wasn't something he could ignore. When Lena came by with their food, he looked her straight in the eye. "You all right, darlin'?" he asked softly. She forced a smile. "Yeah, just long day." Cole nodded, but his instincts screamed otherwise. After a few minutes, the tall man got up and headed to the restroom. Cole followed. The room fell silent as boots echoed down the hallway. Inside, the man turned when the door creaked open. "You got a problem, old man?" he snarled. Cole stepped closer, his voice calm but lethal. "The girl, the one with the bruises, that's your work?" The man laughed. "You don't know what you're talking about. She's my wife. She gets clumsy." Cole's stare turned cold. "That's so. Then maybe she needs a better husband." Before the man could react, Cole grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. The mirror rattled. The man struggled, but Cole's grip was like iron. "You ever touch her again," Cole growled, "and I'll make sure you can't lift your hands to hurt anyone. You understand me?" The man's face turned red. "You don't scare me, biker trash." Cole smiled, a dangerous, quiet smile. "You should be scared, because I've seen monsters like you before, and I buried every one of them." He let the man drop, gasping for air, then walked out like nothing had happened. Back at the table, Lena avoided his gaze. But when her husband stormed out minutes later, muttering curses and gripping his side, she knew something had happened. The bikers finished their meal, paid double the bill, and left. But as Cole mounted his bike, he saw Lena standing at the diner door, her eyes wide with something between fear and hope. He nodded once, a silent promise. Then they rode off into the night. But that wasn't the end. 2 nights later, Cole got a call from a local sheriff's deputy, a young man who sometimes worked with the Serpents during charity runs. "Cole," he said grimly, "you might want to hear this. The waitress from Millie's. She's missing." Cole's grip on the phone tightened. The deputy continued. "Her husband told folks she left town, but her car's still at the diner, and there were signs of a struggle." The next morning, the Steel Serpents were back in Ridgeway. Their bikes thundered down the same street, only this time they weren't here for dinner. They were here for answers. They split up, asking around quietly. Small towns have big ears, and soon whispers started spreading. Someone had seen Lena's husband near the old sawmill outside town, a place long abandoned. Cole's jaw set. When the gang reached the mill, they found the man's truck parked behind it. The place reeked of oil and rust. Inside, they heard a faint noise, a muffled cry. Cole motioned for silence, then kicked open the door. Lena was tied to a chair, bruised and crying. Her husband spun around, holding a wrench. "Get out! This is my wife! She's mine!" Cole's boots echoed as he stepped forward. "She doesn't belong to you," he said, voice low and dangerous. "And tonight she gets her freedom." The man charged, but Cole was faster. Years of combat kicked in as he dodged the first swing, countering with a brutal right hook that sent the wrench clattering to the ground. The man lunged again, but Cole grabbed his arm, twisted, and dropped him to the floor with a crack. "Stay down," Cole warned, but the man spat blood and tried again. This time Cole didn't hold back. The fight was over in seconds. When it was done, Cole cut Lena's ropes. She collapsed into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "I thought no one would come for me," she whispered. He looked her in the eyes. "You're safe now. You don't ever have to go back." The Serpents called the sheriff, who arrived shortly after. The husband was taken away in handcuffs, still cursing, while Lena sat in the back of an ambulance wrapped in a blanket. When she tried to thank Cole, he shook his head. "Save it," he said softly. "Just promise me one thing, live free. Don't ever let anyone make you afraid again." But she nodded through tears. Weeks passed, word spread through Ridgeway like wildfire. The story of what happened at the diner, how a biker gang saved a battered woman, became the talk of every town within miles. For years, people had looked at the Steel Serpents like outlaws, but now they saw them differently. They saw protectors. Millie's diner changed too. The owner, an older woman who had watched everything in silence for too long, gave Lena her job back and a place to stay. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Cole returned alone. He parked his bike outside and walked in. Lena smiled when she saw him. She looked stronger, brighter, like a weight had been lifted. "I never got to thank you," she said, pouring him coffee. He smiled faintly. "You already did by standing here." For a moment there was peace, but then Lena leaned closer. "There's something you should know," she whispered. "My husband, he wasn't acting alone. There's someone else. He owed money to people, bad people, and they think I know where it is." Cole's eyes darkened. "Ooh," she hesitated. "A man named Vince Daly. He runs things around here, drugs, money, everything." Cole sat back. He'd heard that name before. Vince Daly was the kind of man who wore suits by day and sent threats by night. The law couldn't touch him, but Cole could. A few days later, one of Vince's men showed up at the diner, demanding to know where the money was. Cole happened to be sitting at the counter. The thug didn't see him until it was too late. "Looking for someone?" Cole asked, turning slowly. The man sneered. "You should mind your business, old man." Cole stood up. "This is my business." The diner went silent again, just like the first night. Cole grabbed the man by the jacket and shoved him through the door, right into the dirt outside. "Tell Vince Daly if he comes near her again, I'll personally shut him down." The thug scrambled to his feet, muttering threats before speeding off. That night, Cole knew the fight wasn't over. If Vince wanted a war, he'd get one. Over the next week, strange cars appeared around town. The Serpents noticed them, dark windows, unfamiliar faces. Cole called a meeting in the old garage they used as their base. "They're watching Lena," he said. "They think she knows where the money is." So, we make them think she does, and we end this. The plan was risky, but the Serpents were loyal. That night, they set up a trap near the diner. When Vince's men arrived, expecting to grab Lena, they were met with a wall of engines, headlights, and leather. Cole stepped forward, arms crossed. End of the road, boys. A fight broke out under the neon glow. Metal against fists, chaos and justice tangled together. But when the dust settled, it was the Serpents who stood tall. Vince Daly was arrested days later when the police found his hidden ledgers. Information the Serpents happened to leave for the sheriff after the fight. Lena finally walked free from the shadows of her past. She started a new life, eventually opening her own cafe, the Freedom Stop, dedicated to helping women who'd survived abuse find work and community. As for Cole, he never took credit. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who'd seen too much darkness to let it win again. One evening as he rode out of town, the people of Ridgeway stood on the sidewalks, waving as he passed. The same town that once feared him now looked at him with gratitude. Cole tipped his head slightly, the sunset glinting off his sunglasses. The road stretched out ahead, endless and quiet. Somewhere down that line, another town would need him, another soul trapped in the dark, waiting for a light to show up on two wheels. He revved the engine once, and the roar echoed like thunder fading into peace. Because sometimes heroes don't wear badges or capes. Sometimes they wear leather, carry scars, and ride toward danger instead of away from it. And for the people of Ridgeway, the night the biker gang came to town was the night everything changed. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And tell me in the comments, from which part of the country are you watching this?